Alright, so I'm trying to platinum over 100 games in a list created by the community. Now, if I can't do this before the channel hits 850,000 subscribers, then I will shave my head bald and look like a base character from a video game. So make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Alright, so in today's video, I got the platinum trophy on God of War Ascension. This is the final God of War game before the revamp of the series, if you will, in 2018, and also the final God of War game left on the challenge list for me to platinum. And it goes without saying that God of War Ascension is a hard game, but compared to the other ones in the series, it's not the hardest in terms of trophies by far. That being because the only real difficult part is beating the game on hard, and if you're going for this platinum, just be aware that the trophy guide for it is very not general player biased. So if you haven't played the game 14 times already back in 2013, you're probably gonna have a similar experience to me.
That's what I'm saying.
Anyways, God of War Ascension has a total of 36 trophies with the platinum. However, I started making this video back in November, so I already had 8 trophies going into this. Rest in peace footage that I lost, but it's okay. My final playtime was around 16 to 18 hours. I don't know exactly what it was because the PlayStation app is not loading the game since it was streamed. Don't we just love the PS5 game streaming features? Anyways, stage 1 to getting this platinum in the fastest way possible is to play the entire game on hard while it's also going after every collectible trophy, which there really isn't too many. The God of War Ascension story surrounds Kratos trying to figure out the truth of his past because he supposedly has dementia or some other mental illness aside from anger issues. And this takes us on a very long and annoying journey, tracking down a bunch of Furies, as they are called, since they hold this mask that allows the user to see the truth, apparently. And this intro of the game had us battling one the whole time, and it was quite gross because the lady would like pour bugs out of her chest, and they would then infect other living things and just make monstrosities. And as usual, when I was battling against the first boss of the game, I did die a few times, but it's all a part of the process, don't even worry about it. Also, shout out to the living city we are fighting in. This dude must absolutely hate his life, and I almost feel bad for him. One notable section during this massive intro fighting part was when I reached this building that kept getting turned to drop more enemies in, and I'm not sure how, but I did this first try. And I remember very vividly playing this part a month ago and getting my asshole torn apart and spit into, dying almost as fast as the Hawk 2 meme token did. Anyways, half an hour later in this fight against the first bug lady, we finally beat her for good and also snagged this little trinket off of her chest, which then gave us a cutscene taking us back 3 weeks to the past. Who doesn't love a game with time structure, am I right? But during this, we talked to a dude who lives in the shadows like an obese Reddit moderator, and he is also our quote-unquote guide for the game, sort of just exposing us on this path of redemption and occasionally helping us throughout. But then a few minutes after that cutscene, I was in this makeshift ass village and had a big old combat section which allowed me to charge up the rage skill and use it, getting my 25th kill using the rage of the gods and the first new trophy of the day. And in this same village, if you run down to the right side of the area, you will also reach one of the first major puzzles of the game, and it's called the Rolling Crusher puzzle because a crusher is rolling at you. It's very easy to solve, however, ignore me falling to my death, but basically all you gotta do is pull all 3 of the platforms as the roller is rolling, then quickly parkour up to the chest above. And after claiming all of the rewards and pulling the lever to stop the puzzle, a trophy popped into my lap, and let's continue on. The story then took me to another magic unlock combat section, and this time I think I got given the Poseidon weapon or something. I honestly can't remember because after dying 4 times I had begun to relive my childhood trauma, and I also never used the damn weapon a single time after this because it sucks. But seriously, this took me so many tries to just not die in, mostly due to hard difficulty and also my misunderstanding of the game's combat features in general. But once I finally did do it, no trophies popped because this game's lame. However, there was a grand door opening into the glorious countryside. How relaxing. And speaking of relaxing things, I reached another boss fight next, and it was against this very odd looking creature. Almost something that would be chasing me in my dreams on a rough Tuesday. And yes, I died a few times. I like to learn lessons the hard way, especially in video games. But no trophies were gotten after decimating that creature again, which is unfortunate. But I did get one a few minutes after when I was in this metal snake's body trying to do a big puzzle. And it was from using all 5 weapons in combat, which I allegedly did, so here's the trophy pop. And this entire part of the game had us running around a bunch of metal snakes like I just mentioned to try and get them active and going to their correct placement. A lot of interesting sliding sections also did happen, which I have slight beef with because I'd be falling to my death. But once completing all of the snakes, you get a trophy for doing that puzzle. However, it really isn't a puzzle because it's like extremely obvious what you're supposed to do, so that's cool. Now, since that was finished, I then had to return back to the top, and once going back up there, another boss fight happened. But this time it was against the Manticore. Actually, I think this is the same enemy from earlier. Bro just keeps on coming back for sloppy seconds. That's insane.
I'm kind of retarded.
Oh my god!
Anyways, the fight against him this time finally did end, and it ended with a buttonless minigame as the game calls it. It's called this because there is no buttons that show up telling you how to win it, so I kind of just moved my joystick in every direction and it worked. I won the fight and then also got a trophy from winning the buttonless minigame. The story then led us inside the place we have been attempting to enter for ages, and upon entering it there was a bunch of fighting like usual in the God of War games, and while fighting all of the tiny dog enemies here, I got a trophy called Swinger from hitting one with a club and sending it flying off of an edge. Sadly though, since this is a game streaming game, the trophy popped a few seconds after, which is kind of awkward. But after the combat section, we then enter the puzzle section of this area, and this part of the game has some of the most fun and cool puzzle mechanics while also being a tad bit complicated to do. But essentially there is this gas you breathe in, which gives you a trophy by the way upon ingesting it for the first time. However, then it makes everything around you kind of age and begin to fall apart. This allows for us to break into rooms and all of that. That's also like the sole purpose of the gas, but it's fine. Long story short, in this section I got lost a lot, had to even replay an entire chapter because I missed some collectibles that weren't necessarily needed to get grabbed, but I was paranoid.
They're always listening. They're always listening.
Anyways, after a long time I reached the Oracle's room since that has been the goal we were after because Kratos feels the need for speed. Wrong line. He feels the need to know his future like a little pussy. And to get to the Oracle, there was a massive and very long fight against this guy who had another guy inside of him. And no, I'm not talking about Mark Cuban. But the fight essentially ended with us having to avoid falling to our demise and also getting as many hits on the guy as we possibly could without also falling to his volleys. After some time, the dude died and we did the killing blow by completely destroying the room we were in, and everyone fell down to the ground floor. Also, the two guys totally split into perfect halves of each other, which makes me confirm that they were conjoined by elective, and that's hella sus. Kratos then just walked over to both of them and quite literally stomped their brains out into the floor. A valid response to the annoyance we just went through. He also grabbed the little trinket off of them, which gives us a trophy, and this is also a key item to use in the story and for other trophies as well. It's called the Amulet of Orubus. And can be used to freeze enemies in combat, but more to age or DH items and things in the story for puzzles. Also, it's used at almost every puzzle from now on, so if you hate this thing, the game is about to get a lot more annoying. And like I just said, it was then used on a puzzle about 15 minutes later, which had me repair this hydro funnel contraption. I have no idea what it's called because I'm drawing a blank right now, but once I fixed it for the story, I got another trophy pop. That then let us get into sort of near the ending of this game's story, and also sorry for not really talking too much about it, but if we were being honest, God of War Ascension has one of the simplest and most dry stories ever. You legit just travel around this town trying to reach the final spot before any story actually occurs. Anyways, in the new area we got to, I actually found the last two chests I needed to for both max health and max magic trophy pops right here. And traditionally with these old God of War games, after finding both max of health and magic, all of the white chests from now on will contain a lot of red orbs, which is crucial for us to upgrade items. Anyways, there was then another puzzle section with us trying to raise this elevator up to allow us to parkour to the next area. And during my efforts in trying to figure out how the hell you do this very easy puzzle, I ended up ripping the arms off of the Martyr of Hecatonacaries on accident. But it was a trophy, so that's kind of funny, however I do feel bad. And once making it outside once more, I actually reached the final broken chest need and repair of the game. Upon fixing it and looting it, I then got a trophy from fixing all of the chests around the game in total, which is very missable. Shout out YouTube guide people, we love you. Anyways, I reached this big ass fight against the main villains of the game, and it was actually quite hard to do. A threesome always sounded fun in my head, but I guess in reality it turns out to be pretty f***ing annoying because I kept on dying over and over and over during this fight. And even after quote-unquote winning, we still lost and we're about to be taken to the evil closet with them, but our homie from earlier just showed up and saved us. We also then got a trophy called Bros Before Foes. If that ain't the realest shit I done heard all day, on God. I was in at the final area of the game called the Trial of Arthritis, I think, and Kratos slammed open this big ass door to reveal giant titties. I still don't understand why Santa Monica Studios stopped putting these glorious things in the God of War games. Just look at what we lost with time. How sad indeed. Anyways, I then got a trophy after using the Eyes of Truth, which was the final item we got in this game and can clear debris off of certain structures. But that then began the hardest combat section of the game by far. We have to progress through a elevator type section, rising this platform up and up until the top, with 3 different combat levels. The first being against a bunch of snakes, which is low-key hard as hell in hard difficulty because they just don't die and also constantly grab your ass. But during dying to them over and over, I did get a trophy at some point, so that's cool. And in my opinion, this is the only real hard level out of the 3 right here. But it sucks because there's 0 checkpoints and I almost always left that first combat combat level with low HP having to do the rest without really getting hit at all. Anyways, the second level of 3 had us in a much more confined space having to also dodge fire being shot out of the walls. But honestly, if you're just moving a lot, this one isn't near as bad as the first one. And then the final level is actually insanely easy and I did it first try. The only challenging part is that you can't really dodge since the walls are all spiked up with spikes, but it's easily avoided if you just don't dodge. And I did it first try, finishing off that horrible combat section with a golden trophy pop after. I was then able to finish the puzzle in this room finally because we previously got cock blocked by that massive combat section I just mentioned. And after finishing that puzzle, I then opened the final room, and in here was also the final artifact of the game, which after grabbing you get a trophy if you've gotten all of the other ones. And it's also a shout out to Uncharted, which we love to see. And guess what? Yup, I've also platinumed the Uncharted series, so go watch that if you haven't already. I'm a sellout, goddamn. Anyways, it was then the final fight of the game, and it was against this massive sea monster and also some of those pretty ladies that have been after Kratos' ass forever. But to be honest with you, this final fight is super easy compared to the other final bosses in these God of War games, mostly because you can just dodge and not go near the front of the platform you're on to avoid any attacks. So after defeating the monster, it then takes us to the ending room and the final boss lady. You don't actually fight her again though, instead you just do some quick time events to finish off the fight with finally killing her emo goth wannabe self. That also destroyed reality around us because she was gatekeeping what reality even was, and as the world was falling apart, I got 2 trophies for beating the game and then the hard difficulty one as well. The game then flashed forward to Kratos at his home, and we saw a wholesome ending with us having to kill the dude who's been helping the whole game in order for him to achieve peace along with us. Kratos then burned the house down and moved on with his life, finally being let free to go make 2 banger games 10 years later. Shout out God of War revamp on God. Alright, so now it's time for stage 2 of the platinum, which is to clean up the remaining trophies I have left. And I actually had to do another playthrough entirely because I didn't get enough red orbs by the end of the hard playthrough for a fully upgraded Kratos. I honestly have no idea how that happened, but it is what it is. So I began an entire new playthrough, grabbing all of the chests I saw and trying my best to get as much red orbs as possible because that's the main thing we were missing. The first new trophy I did get, however, was called Maybe You Should Call a Doctor, and it's from keeping the rage meter at max for 2 minutes or more. And I actually did this on accident because I was distracted by something and just didn't do the kill move the game wanted me to do, which in turn led to infinite enemies being spawned in right here in the very intro of the game. And that was basically the only trophy I got for most of this new playthrough until nearing the ending, when I did finally get one from getting 100 enemies hit with the Oath Stone of Orkos. And this is just the shadow form of Kratos move that is unironically good, by the way. But after hitting 100 enemies, I got a trophy set to W. And that was actually right before I reached a sliding section in this game, which was kind of hard on my first attempt, but since this is a new playthrough, I did remember the path this time, and I did it first try, which was a trophy called All Lubed Up, my favorite. And in this playthrough, since I was making sure to maximize red orbs, I actually did get Kratos fully upgraded and way sooner than I thought I would. So after I grabbed the Eyes of Truth, which was the final item of the game, that trophy popped in succession. Alright, so since that was all I really needed for this new playthrough, I then just loaded up chapters for the remaining trophies. First being from completing the Screw of Archimedes without getting hit by the fire traps. And this wasn't really hard to do per se because on my first try I did it, but I can't see how it's annoying. Especially since with games streaming, the game's quality is very poor and seeing the fire's actual reach is a bit challenging because pixels sometimes all look the same. Anyways, I really don't think this is hard, so here's that trophy, and if you disagree, you're wrong. I then did the 1000 hit combo trophy next, which was super annoying to do because the only place to even do it on is at this big fucking rock wall. And you have to have this Zeus power up to even do it, which did make me go back in chapter select and upgrade it since I hadn't yet my playthrough by this time. But then once I made it to the rock, it was also super annoying to just sit there and get 1000 hits. Also, shout out to me fat fingering a button a few times and having to restart. How wonderful. Eventually I did get it though, but that trophy is still dumb. So my final trophy left before the platinum was then from me slowing 100 enemies with that amulet I mentioned a long time ago. And I'm not sure how accurate this thing's tracking is because I used it for basically 2 playthroughs and still didn't have the trophy, which then made me just keep on playing and freezing enemies until it popped, which it did pop, by the way, only a few minutes after going for it. So I'm pretty much just yapping now, and here's that platinum trophy added on to finish off our day of good work. So that was the God of War Ascension platinum trophy experience. Overall, I think the game is good. It's kind of boring though, especially when I am sitting here editing, because it makes you realize how little story there really is. Like, compare this game's plot to the first one and it's kind of sad. That first game was legendary and it had us avenging our family, ourselves, getting revenge on the gods and all of that. But then this game is just us basically battling IRL schizophrenia. Shout out the voices for real. What's that? Nah, I'm just making a video right now. Sorry about that. The voices came back. Anyways, rating it out of 10, I'll give God of War Ascension a solid 7. Fun game, annoying game, hard game, but damn, it kept me entertained throughout, that's for sure. Alright, subscribe, you bitch. I'm just kidding. Or am I?